Well, first of all, John, I want to tell your listeners that I'm not Joe Biden black. So that's the first thing we have to start off with. And if your listeners are wondering what reference that to, is that Joe Biden said, if you have to think about who to vote for in the rest of you're not black. Mm-hmm. And so I am not Joe Biden black. Secondly, all the police officers, if you want to leave the lunatic places that you're working in the Northeast and want to come south, we have jobs for you in Winston-Salem. Winston-Salem needs police officers. Come work in Winston-Salem. You won't make as much as you're making wherever they are, right? But there are a lot fewer leftists here than there are there. Mm-hmm. By the next election, we'll have control of them. And finally, the cost of living is a lot lower in North Carolina. You're going to get a great deal. But the original comment is white liberals. I haven't had a white liberal come up to me and say anything because I'm 6'4", 300 pounds, and I'd sit on them or something. It is instructive that white liberals are telling black folks, overwhelmingly descendants of slaves, how to be black. That doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, it's hard to take that seriously.
That's the question I'm asking. I'm just trying to figure this out because hypocrisy is what drives me nuts. So let's get back to your movement, black Americans to reelect the president. When you're talking to people in the communities of color about the president, and there's so much angst going on out there and calling him a racist, and he went and made the speech in Mount Rushmore, which I happen to think, Vernon, was a spectacular speech. I thought it was the best speech he ever made, very inspiring. And, of course, the Washington Post and the New York Times called it a dog whistle. I guess now if you salute the flag, you're a racist. But when you're talking to people in the communities of color about the president, what are they saying? And be honest, because I know you're getting all sides.
Well, some folks believe the rhetoric, and I just ask individuals, both in person and in the little booklet we put out, Keep America Great, do you really believe that having been feted for his entire adult life until he ran for president by the Urban League and the NAACP and getting awards and being feted by Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson and all the other race hustlers, do you believe that he suddenly became a racist at 69? Or is it more likely to be the case that the guy ran against Hillary Clinton and beat her for president, which is why they're calling him racist, because actually the Democrats have called every candidate, including Goldwater, and since then, a racist. Mm-hmm. That's what they do. It works so well in tarnishing Goldwater, who had an exemplary civil rights record, that they just use it as a matter of course now. So that's number one. Number two, we highlight the ridiculous things that Democrats, including Joe Biden, said. Joe Biden said that he didn't want his kids to go on by a racial jungle. He actively opposed the desegregation of Delaware schools. He stood in the schoolhouse door of educational opportunity. But it's not just then. He stands in the schoolhouse door of opportunity now. The Democratic Party of Tennessee removed a black state representative because he, A, supports marriage, biblical marriage, B, he supports school choice, and C, he's a pro-life legislator. So they removed him from the Democratic ballot, saying he is not a Democrat because he supports those things. And it's going back to your original comment of white leftists telling black folks who's black or what you ought to be doing, because his constituents in the district in Memphis voted to put him in the legislature 13 times. I mean, it's saying that the white folks on the Central Committee know more about being black and being a Democrat than the Democrats who are black who are voting for the guy. And finally, we talk about issues. We're going to talk about what the big problem is. You know, you're talking about impediments for the president to get his 20%. He has a great record to run on. He's defending babies. Yesterday, there were a number of people killed, black people, including kids killed in Chicago. No Klansmen killed anybody. No Confederate flags killed anybody. No statues killed anybody. However, Planned Parenthood will kill someplace between 200, 250, 300 black babies today. So when you talk about Black Lives Matter, they're only talking about the 1% of black homicides from police, the 97% of black-on-black crime, and the 21 million abortions. So the president's trying to stop America's hidden Holocaust killing black babies. Secondly, the president's big time into education reform, supporting historically black colleges at the highest level ever, the federal government, and supporting school choice up and down at every level, which frees black kids from teachers' unions that don't teach them how to read, write, and add, and hand out condoms. The president. There's two ways you can reduce unemployment. Obama reduced unemployment by so discouraging black folks and other folks from working that they left the workforce altogether. Then he put able-bodied individuals without dependence on welfare. That's one way to reduce unemployment, because people who are not looking for work are not considered unemployed. They're considered out of the workforce. The president took a different tack. He decided to create more jobs than there are people to take them. And the black unemployment, lowest level in history before the Chinese virus scare, lowest level of black, the difference between black and white unemployment, wages going up for the first time in 30 years. When I heard this statistic, I had to check it out because it was so fantastic. 400% increase in black business startups 2018 over 2017. Black wealth in terms of retirement funds, 401ks, 403bs, going through the ceiling, including my own. And that is a great record to run on. And we haven't talked about securing the border, because unlimited immigration, open borders are a dagger at the black middle class's heart. Mm-hmm. So that's a great record to run on. The big problem is that the GOP still hasn't got the message. The Republican Party was told by consultants for the last 56 years, do not communicate with black voters because it'll only upset them. And so if you ask, and I encourage the listeners to go call today their local, the chairman of their unit in Virginia, or the county chairman any place outside of Virginia that's listening to this radio show, and ask, what are your plans to communicate with black voters? How many hours will you have volunteers knocking on doors asking black voters for the business, because no one has ever sold anything without asking for the order? How many phone calls will you make? How many letters will you mail? And the answer to that traditionally has been 0, 0, and 0. Mm-hmm. And additionally, how much will you spend on urban contemporary radio to reach half of the black electorate in a market? Mm-hmm. So the super PACs are going to do that. There's 3 of them. The campaign's going to do that. The big question mark is, what is the party going to do? Because it's been useless for the last 56 years to talk to folks who support biblical marriage, who want the hidden Holocaust killing black babies to stop, who support school choice to the point that black women in Florida, 18% of them, 100,000 black women, voted for Ron DeSantis over the black Democrat, because the black Democrat said, we're going to get rid of school choice. And the children and grandchildren of those 100,000 black women said, we like our schools. The mamas and grandmamas said, no, you're not. You're not going to get rid of school choice. We're going to vote for the Republican, 3 times bigger than DeSantis' margin of victory. So there's a great opportunity. The GOP needs to get their act together.
I agree with you, man. Vernon, I tell you what, you have to have a conversation. Biden came out the other day for eliminating all school choice. I mean, that's his position. He came out with it. He's a tool of the teachers' unions for a lot of lower-income families, black and white, single-parent households, things of that nature, in areas with failing schools. School choice is the only option they have to get out of poverty and get out of the bad educational situation. Why we would eliminate that is beyond me. And many areas it's working. So I mean, if you don't have the resources to move, and you're in a failing school, you're screwed without school choice. And I got to go.
He's paying off the unions.
All right, man, I got to go. Vernon Robinson, the head of Black Americans to Re-elect President Trump. Thank you so much,
John. Get the book Coming Home. That's the other thing that the folks can do.
All right, book Coming Home, and that's what, Amazon or wherever?
On Amazon, Coming Home, How Black Americans Re-Elect Trump, and check out the website, blackAmericansMAGA.org.